Chapter 9. It was an eye. Or it looked like an eye. Clear and bright like the colour of the sky. An eye like her own, but enormous. A glaring eye. Breathless with fear, she sat up. And the eye blinked. A great fringe of lashes came curving down and flew up again out of sight. Cautiously, Arrietty moved her legs. She would slide noiselessly in among the grass stems and slither away down the bank. "Don't move," said the voice. The voice, like the eye, was enormous, but somehow hushed and hoarse, like a surge of wind through the grating on a stormy night in March. Arrietty froze. So this is it, she thought. The worst and most terrible thing of all. I have been seen. Whatever happened to Eglantine will now almost certainly happen to me. There was a pause, and Arrietty, her heart pounding in her ears, heard the breath again drawn swiftly into the vast lungs. "Or," said the voice, whispering still, "I shall hit you with my ash stick." Suddenly Arrietty became calm. "Why?" she asked. How strange her own voice sounded. Crystal thin and harebell clear, it tinkled in the air. "In case," came the surprised whisper at last, "you ran towards me quickly through the grass. In case," it went on, trembling a little, "you scrabble at me with your nasty little hands." Arrietty stared at the eye. She held herself quite still. "Why?" she asked again, and again the word tinkled. Icy cold it sounded this time, and needle sharp. "Things do," said the voice. "I've seen them. In India." Arrietty thought of her gazetteer of the world. Not in India now," she pointed out. "Did you come out of the house?" "Yes," said Arrietty. "From whereabouts in the house?" Arrietty stared at the eye. "I'm not going to tell you," she said at last, bravely. "Then I'll hit you with my ash stick." "All right," said Arrietty, "hit me." "I'll pick you up and break you in half." Arrietty stood up. "All right," she said, and took 2 paces forward. There was a sharp gasp and an earthquake in the grass. He spun away from her and sat up, a great mountain in a green jersey. He had fair, straight hair and golden eyelashes. "Stay where you are," he cried. Arrietty stared up at him. So this was the boy. Breathless, she felt, and light with fear. "I guessed you were about 9, she gasped after a moment. He flushed. "Well, you're wrong. I'm 10. He looked down at her, breathing deeply. "How old are you?" 14, said Arrietty. "Next June," she added, watching him. There was silence while Arrietty waited, trembling a little. "Can you read?" the boy said at last. "Of course," said Arrietty. "Can't you?" "No," he stammered. I mean, yes, I've just come from India." "What's that got to do with it?" asked Arrietty. "Well, if you're born in India, you're bilingual, and if you're bilingual, you can't read. Not so well." Arrietty stared up at him. What a monster, she thought, dark against the sky. "Do you grow out of it?" she asked. He moved a little, and she felt the cold flick of his shadow. "Oh, yes," he said. "It wears off. My sisters were bilingual. Now they aren't a bit. They could read any of those books upstairs in the schoolroom." "So could I," said Arrietty quickly, "if someone could hold them and turn the pages. I'm not a bit bilingual. I can read anything." "Could you read it out loud?" "Of course," said Arrietty. "Would you wait here while I run upstairs and get a book now?" "Well," said Arrietty. She was longing to show off, then a startled look came into her eyes. Oh, she faltered. What's the matter? The boy was standing up now. He towered above her. How many doors are there to this house? She squinted up at him against the bright sunlight. He dropped to one knee. Doors? He said. Outside doors? Yes. Well, there's the front door, the back door, the gun room door, the kitchen door, the scullery door, and the French windows in the drawing room. Well, you see, said Arrietty, my father's in the hall by the front door working. He wouldn't want to be disturbed. Working? Said the boy. What at? Getting material, said Arrietty, for a scrubbing brush. Oh, then I'll go in the side door. He began to move away, but turned suddenly and came back to her. He stood a moment, as though embarrassed, and then he said, Can you fly? No, said Arrietty, surprised. Can you? His face became even redder. Of course not, he said angrily. I'm not a fairy. Well, nor am I, said Arrietty. Nor is anybody. I don't believe in them. He looked at her strangely. You don't believe in them? No, said Arrietty. Do you? Of course not. Really, she thought, he is a very angry kind of boy. My mother believes in them, she said, trying to appease him. She thinks she saw one once. It was when she was a girl and lived with her parents behind the sandpile in the potting shed. He squatted down on his heels and she felt his breath on her face. What was it like? He asked. About the size of a glowworm with wings like a butterfly. And it had a tiny little face, she said, all alight and moving like sparks and tiny moving hands. Its face was changing all the time, she said, smiling and sort of shimmering. It seemed to be talking, she said, very quickly, but you couldn't hear a word. Oh, said the boy, interested. After a moment, he asked, Where did it go? It just went, said Arrietty. When my mother saw it, it seemed to be caught in a cobweb. It was dark at the time, about 5 o'clock on a winter's evening, after tea. Oh, he said again and picked up 2 petals of cherry blossom, which he folded together like a sandwich, and ate slowly. Supposing, he said, staring past her at the wall of the house, you saw a little man, about as tall as a pencil, with a blue patch in his trousers, halfway up a window curtain, carrying a doll's teacup. Would you say it was a fairy? No, said Arrietty. I'd say it was my father. Oh, said the boy, thinking this out. Does your father have a blue patch on his trousers? Not on his best trousers. He does on his borrowing ones. Oh, said the boy again. He seemed to find it a safe sound, as lawyers do. Are there many people like you? No, said Arrietty, none. We're all different. I mean as small as you. Arrietty laughed. Oh, don't be silly, she said. Surely you don't think there are many people in the world your size? There are more my size than yours, he retorted. Honestly, began Arrietty helplessly and laughed again. Do you really think, whatever sort of a world would it be? Those great chairs, I've seen them. Fancy if you had to make chairs that size for everyone. And the stuff for their clothes, miles and miles of it, tents of it, and the sewing. And they're great houses, reaching up so you can hardly see the ceilings. They're great beds, the food they eat. Great smoking mountains of it, huge bogs of stew and soup and stuff. Don't you eat soup? Asked the boy. Well, of course we do, laughed Arrietty. My father had an uncle who had a little boat which he rowed around in the stockpot, picking up flotsam and jetsam. He did bottom fishing too for bits of marrow until the cook got suspicious through finding bent pins in the soup. Once he was nearly shipwrecked on a chunk of submerged shin bone. He lost his oars and the boat sprang a leak, but he flung a line over the pot handle and pulled himself alongside the rim. But all that stock, fathoms of it. And the size of the stock pot. There wouldn't be enough stuff in the world to go round after a bit. That's why my father said it's a good thing they're dying out. Just a few, my father says. That's all we need to keep us. Otherwise, he says, the whole thing gets... Arrietty hesitated, trying to remember the word. Exaggerated, he said. What do you mean? Asked the boy. To keep us.